January 6th, or some would call it the darkest day in American history. But see, most of us knew that that wasn't the case at all. Most of us could see clear as day this was a Fedsurrection, this was an inside job designed to prevent Donald Trump from ever taking office again, ever running again, and even potentially putting him in prison. See, what happened in 2016 up to 2020 was a coup d'etat effectively put in place by Obama and the FBI, including the CIA, to prevent any progress from happening for 4 years. Well, see, with January 6th, they tried to tighten everything up real nice so that we couldn't figure out what was really going on here. So in a Warren Commission-esque sham committee, the January 6th Select Committee, somehow the dam broke, and it has broken recently, with Christopher Wray testifying in front of Congress multiple times, not being able to give a definitive answer on whether they had assets there, FBI assets. That should be a no, right? Well, he couldn't answer. He danced around it like a bureaucrat does. And guess what? We're continuing to get good stuff. And what we're going to be looking at today, there was an initial finding report released. Actually, it was recently. An initial findings report from Barry Loudermilk from Georgia, where there's a subcommittee that was set up specifically designed to investigate the January 6th Select Committee, which is completely bogus. And that's why I want to look at this today, because we need to look at the members and the participants, or well, rather, the hand-picked by Nancy Pelosi people that were on this committee. And as soon as I start, if you know the names, you know how corrupt this is. But we're going to look at the initial findings report here. So on the failures and politicization of the January 6th Select Committee, the activities on and leading up to January 6, 2021. The Subcommittee on Oversight is investigating the security failures of January 6th, which House Democrats failed to investigate in the 117th Congress. This passed. We are focused on identifying and reviewing the numerous security failures on and leading up to January 6, 2021, and reviewing the creation, operation, and claims made by Speaker Nancy Pelosi's Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. Now, this here, the initial findings report, this is effectively bullet points that are well described. Then Barry Loudermilk made a very concise opening statement effectively in this letter. We'll run through the high points on it. But what the key findings here were, the Select Committee was designed to promote a political narrative, of course. And what I love about this from Chairman Loudermilk is, without getting too specific on the corruption and the treasonous things that they did, he lays out very specifically the concrete evidence that this committee was corrupt, politically biased, and used to push a narrative to create what effectively the mainstream media picked up with and ran for years, that Donald Trump tried to incite a violent insurrection and overthrow the government, terminate the Constitution, become a dictator, you know. So in this, Pelosi made the unprecedented decision to refuse to appoint minority members chosen by the minority to the Select Committee. This was Republicans, right? They hired Hollywood producers to assist with their primetime hearings. They refused to adopt rules allowing them to operate without limits to project their predetermined narrative to the world. The predetermined narrative of, specifically, this was an insurrection. We'll get to later why that is so significant. You probably already know. This is very significant. Cheney was vice chair, a position reserved for a Democrat. Isn't that interesting, Liz? Cheney was not the minority ranking member, but served as vice chair of the Select Committee, a position under the House rules for a member of the same party as the chair. Pelosi appointed Cheney for the Select Committee as one of Pelosi's 8 majority appointments to the Select Committee. Former Select Committee staff members spoke out against Cheney's insistence that the Select Committee focus on President Trump. So they were trying to focus on, you'll see when we look through the members of the Select Committee, you'll see what that really means, because they were all so concerned with not Trump and inciting an insurrection. They were focused on how it was organized. Right. That's very convenient. The Select Committee deleted records and hid evidence. I've got a timeline that exhibits just that we'll look through. Reps Thompson and Cheney Benny Thompson, that is, to turn over video recordings of witness interviews and depositions, despite using these recordings in their high-profile primetime hearings. The subcommittee recovered over 100 deleted or password-protected files, including some files that were deleted days before Republicans took the majority. They also hid multiple transcribed interviews of witnesses who had firsthand knowledge of Trump's actions on January 6th. Those actions being, and I'll put it here, those actions being peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard over at the Capitol, okay? And then he posted, "Go home."
We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special.
Very, very important distinctions in events that happen on that day. Now, the Select Committee promoted star witness Hutchinson's testimony. Reps Thompson and Cheney, Benny Thompson and Liz Cheney, promoted Cassidy Hutchinson's sensational revised testimony and hid witness testimony from White House and Secret Service employees with firsthand knowledge that directly contradicted Hutchinson's version of events. Hutchinson conducted 3 transcribed interviews with the Select Committee before substantially revising her story in her 4th transcribed interview. Despite knowing how significantly her testimony changed, the Select Committee promoted it as fact. And this is a recurring theme. Changing information and then putting it out there as if we can change the past because we put out another completely different statement in the future. Hutchinson's sensational story about Trump lunging at steering wheel in SUV after speech at the Ellipse was directly refuted by the driver of the SUV. Thompson and Cheney were aware that the Secret Service agent driving the SUV on January 6th refuted Hutchinson's testimony. Despite this, they still included her testimony in the final report and insisted it was credible. The Select Committee colluded with none other than Fannie Willis. Fannie. Fulton County District Attorney wrote to the Select Committee seeking assistance with her prosecution of President Trump. Select Committee staff met with representatives from her office. So not only did Big Fannie meet with, at the very least, the Biden administration, Joe Biden and Kamala, or people from the cabinet, not only did she do that, she met with staff for the Select Committee. Okay, maybe that was on her, it was in between cabin trips with Nathan Wade on taxpayer dollars. Who knows? So following this, and then we'll move into the members of the Select Committee, because there's some serious corruption that needs to be uncovered, that they're prosecuting Trump for a fedsurrection while these bureaucrats, as we know, are corrupt to their core. So Loudermilk's statement here, and the full report, I can put it in the comments, I can put it in the description. It's 122 pages long, I believe. This is effectively the preface for it in shorthand. So we won't run through all of this, but the most important statements made by Loudermilk they reflect the sentiment and the emotions and the feelings of the American people who want transparency. We want to think that our government serves us and not us serving them. To start, in January 2023, Speaker Kevin McCarthy asked me to take on a new and challenging task investigating the security failures at the Capitol on January 6th, as well as the actions, investigation, and subsequent report of the Pelosi-appointed Select Committee on January 6th. I accepted this assignment on 2 conditions: that I have the autonomy and resources needed to effectively pursue the facts without political bias or outside influence. That's very important. And that I have the authority to report whatever we find to the American people. McCarthy assured him that he would be able to do that, and he'd be able to conduct a real investigation effectively. And I'm going to skip forward here. After McCarthy was effectively ousted, Mike Johnson came in and gave him even more unilateral authority to investigate this and even more resources. Over the past 24 months of this investigation, my subcommittee staff have faced incredible obstacles in pursuit of the truth, missing and deleted documents, hidden evidence, unaccounted for video footage, and uncooperative bureaucrats. At one point, the work of the subcommittee was completely halted due to Kevin McCarthy's removal, and then Mike Johnson came in again. I'm hyphenating this significantly. Next, this report reveals that there was not just one single cause for what happened at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, but it was a series of intelligence, security, and leadership failures at several levels and numerous entities. Even amid multiple failures, there were 2 common elements that significantly contributed to the security issues: an excessive amount of political influence on critical decisions and a greater concern over the top optics than for protecting life and property. The optics, remember, optics are everything. And this, whether he got convicted, impeached and convicted and sent to prison, all those things matter then, but they're optics and trying to influence voters. Lastly, while there still is much more to be investigated, Congress must take what we have learned thus far and begin the arduous task of making reforms with both the legislative and executive branches to ensure this level of security failure can never happen again. The American people deserve a government that they can trust and be proud of. Unfortunately, the failures, cover-ups, and false accusations in the aftermath of January 6th have only increased the people's distrust of D.C. I hope the work of this subcommittee will help restore a level of hope in our government, but until we hold accountable those responsible and reform our institutions, we will not fully regain trust. Americans, this is the part I love, Americans expect and deserve a government that is small in size, limited in scope, and fully accountable to the people as our founders intended. The actions of some elected officials and certain government bureaucrats in the aftermath of the 6th are evidence of how we have ventured far away from those basic principles of our constitutional republic. Transparency, accountability, and equal application of the law are the only solutions to return our nation to one that is free, safe, and full of opportunity. I sincerely pray that this report is just the beginning of an era of restoring our federal government to the basic principles of transparency and accountability. Signed, Barry Loudermilk. See, as I mentioned before, the approach to this situation, there's no speculation, there's no reference to the FBI and having informants, assets at the Capitol. There's no speculation. And I appreciate what they're doing because this doesn't incorporate any disputable facts. They destroyed evidence. Trump had, I can put the clip here, Trump had an interview with ABC, and he said, Liz Cheney and Benny Thompson destroyed evidence. They should go to prison. So they're effectively approaching this, in my opinion, they're approaching this the proper way, no gray area. They've blocked us, prevented us from doing anything, and destroyed evidence in the process so that we can't get any truth out on this. So the 9 lawmakers that are and have been, they have been in charge of investigating the January 6th Capitol attack are Benny Thompson, who's the committee chairman, and he will run through a quick biography on these people, then look at their backstory and what's going on behind the scenes with these people. If they're trying to expose and destroy Trump, we ought to expose and destroy their reputations because there's not much to be admired about these people. Mississippi, 2nd District, this is Benny Thompson, elected in 1993. And you'll see a lot of these people, they've been in government for a long time. Funny enough, our next one, Zoe Lofgren, is a very interesting, this is a hand grenade. Elected in 1993, Thompson is a Democrat fixture in a predominantly red state. He's the sole Democrat in Mississippi's congressional delegation. Thompson serves as the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee. He previously crafted legislation with Rep. John Katko of New York that would have established an independent commission to investigate the events of January 6th. The measure passed the House but was blocked by Republicans in the Senate. We have to get to the bottom of finding out all the things that went wrong on January 6th, he said in 2021, announcing some of the panel's members. He claimed, when speaking with NPR, that on January 6th, we came close to losing democracy. Okay, so Benny, I have to ask, what have you been up to since you got into government? I have to know. Benny Thompson has a decorated past of questionable actions. Okay, so we talk about election denial, and evidently Trump's the first person to ever do it, when in fact every single Democrat that has lost in the last 40 years has denied the election results. But he objected to the 2004 election, mind you. He sponsored H.R. 7668, which was the FEMA Equity Act. This is extremely relevant considering what happened in North Carolina and, quite frankly, in East Tennessee, where I am. It's what we were talking about just a couple of months ago, how FEMA, back in 2022, had effectively implemented DEI in their practice or in how they approach disaster aid. DEI so that we don't discriminate. It's called the Federal Emergency Management Advancement of Equity Act, or the FEMA Equity Act. So, significant there. We will run through all of these rather quickly. We're not going to go into a full biography, a Bob Woodward style biography. However, a couple of bullet points here on the most important ones. So, 5-year FEMA veteran gave her opinion on this bill and how FEMA is operating today. And this is directly thanks to Benny Thompson and his colleagues voting for this. So this veteran of FEMA says she revealed the woke bias at the Disaster Relief Agency, stating, under the Biden-Harris administration, the agency prioritizes racial minorities, LGBTQ+ individuals, and climate initiatives, undermining its mission of helping Americans facing disasters and leading Americans to distrust the federal government. FEMA pushes diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, at the risk of saving fewer lives. Like I said, extremely relevant today because of the disaster that happened during the Biden administration. We had the fires in Hawaii, we had East Palestine in Ohio, and we had the hurricane here. And I'm missing several other major events, but FEMA's completely morally bankrupt. They're not helping people, and they're giving money to illegals as opposed to American citizens. Okay, moving on. Zoe Lofgren of California, another career politician, and you'll be surprised if you didn't know this, what she was involved in. She was elected to Congress in 1994. She served as an impeachment manager during then-President Donald Trump's first impeachment trial in 2020. She's the chair of the House Administration Committee, which has held a series of hearings examining, among other things, the management of the Capitol Police. Yeah, because a lot of them died, don't you remember? During a news conference last year, Lofgren acknowledged deficiencies in management of the force, but emphasized that's not what spurred the attack. Well, yeah, because Ray Epps and those like Ray Epps were involved in provocateur activities. What caused a mob of Americans to think they are somehow supporting the Constitution when they tried to disrupt the constitutional process of counting the Electoral College votes, she asked. Who paid for it? How is it organized? We need to find that out to keep the country safe. Well, Zoe, I would like to know who's funding massive migrant caravans that are bombarding our southern border. And the name, it's like at the top of my head. Oh yeah, George Soros and the Open Societies Foundation. Yeah. Okay, so Zoe Lofgren, how about she might want to take a step back considering what her decorated past is as well. She received campaign contributions from Google, amongst other very Silicon Valley and billionaire companies, or Fortune 500 companies. Received campaign contributions from Google. She was endorsed by Pelosi, the Planned Parenthood Action Fund, and the Progressive Turnout Project, which is a PAC that uses shell companies to bombard voters with emails, mail, and it effectively looks just like scam or spam that comes into your email from some fraudulent company. And it's perfect example, the Stop Republicans PAC. So they use a number of PACs that do a bunch of fishy things, and then they take the fall for it while the Progressive Turnout Project is at the very top. So it's a little fishy, huh? She helped the House Judiciary Committee draft the Watergate charges against President Nixon as a juvenile regulatory understudy in 1974. So not only was she involved in impeachment trials, definitely pushing at Russiagate, she was also involved in Watergate. And if you do any studying into Watergate, you will smell the stink that is coming off of. Watergate was yet another Russiagate. And there was some involvement by Nixon, but there was also a lot of involvement by our very own Central Intelligence Agency. She stated in 2020, I worked for the House Judiciary Commissioner at Watergate the Watergate trial. In my opinion, this political interference is far worse than Watergate. Attorney General Barr's actions are deeply troubling, and the damage is difficult to calculate. Okay, here's something that's also interesting, something that I intend to do some more digging on. Her husband is a very successful real estate attorney in Silicon Valley. Okay, so what is it with these politicians, especially ones from blue states such as California? Adam Schiff is next. What is it with these people and having highly successful, highly influential, and specifically influential in the most important sectors of our economy and the most pernicious at times and despotic segments and sectors of our country? They're involved. So 45 years of practicing real estate law in Silicon Valley. Food for thought. All right, next we have our good friend Adam Schiff, California 28th District. We all know Pencil Neck. Schiff was elected in 2000 and chairs the powerful House Intelligence Committee. If you ever listen to Matt Gaetz talk about the House or any committee, be it Armed Services Committee, you name it, we're talking pay to play. You want to be on a committee? You got to take in a bunch of money. Typically, it's from a PAC. You want to be on a committee? Talk to a PAC. You get on there, then you do the bidding of whatever PAC you took the money from or the donor, per se. He was the lead impeachment manager for Trump's first impeachment trial, frequently sparring with Republicans defending Trump, including the current number 3 House Republican, Elise Stefanik. Schiff spoke about the role of intelligence gathering last year. Why didn't we see this coming? What kind of advance warning did we have? Should we have had? What are the appropriate mechanisms that law enforcement can use to identify when there's a threat to the nation's capital? And how that information can be shared, he asked. It's my hope that through our efforts we can get those answers and put additional pressure as needed on the agencies to be forthcoming and with that information so that we can prepare for the future. Ring-a-ding-ding. Let's look at Pencil Neck's background, because Pencil Neck doesn't really need much of an introduction. I would assume everyone knows who Pencil Neck is, knows he's corrupt, knows he's a liar, knows he's a weasel, knows his head's too big for his neck. This guy is disgusting. And everybody was throwing a parade, telling everybody to come over when he said he was stepping down from the House of Representatives or resigning. Well, then he won a Senate seat. So this man, Pencil Neck, was deeply involved, of course, in Russiagate. This guy was on mainstream news, CBS, MSNBC, CNN. He was on all of them, nearly daily, saying we have, what was his phrase? We've got damning evidence. We have everything we need to put Trump away. He is going to be done. He colluded with Russia. You get it. He literally went for 4 years, never let up. Trump's a Russian asset. All a lie. And he also led the other impeachment trial and pushed constant hoaxes. These are more abstract. The hoaxes was constant with his taxes and everything. He was a major player in the censorship regime, as in 2020 and 2024. He pushed with the FBI, of course. All of them worked in tandem to push censorship, especially with social media companies, being YouTube, X, which was Twitter at the time, Facebook. He was one of the leaders of the charge in censoring American citizens because he didn't want truth exposed. He didn't want anyone talking about anything other than Joe Biden good, Donald Trump bad, the Hunter Biden laptop is a hoax. Russian disinformation. Corruption abundant in a similar vein to Nancy Pelosi. This guy is ridiculously rich. And if you go look at his campaign finances, the guy spends $20, $30 million every campaign, typically on just campaign ads, on TV ads. But more specifically, what's funny about this man is his relationship to BlackRock and Franklin Templeton Investments. Now, years ago, the story broke that with Hunter Biden's relationship with Burisma, the Ukrainian company that's notorious for money laundering, and then you got Yanukovych, corrupt government, one of the most corrupt, if not the most corrupt in the world. You've got Adam Schiff, Snopes, and all the rest, they fact-checked it and said it was wildly untrue. But Adam Schiff was not wanting, he was saying there was disinformation that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden weren't tied in business. It's funny, though, that Adam Schiff was heavily invested in BlackRock and Franklin Templeton investments during the time that Hunter Biden was working at Burisma. Strange connection, right? And that was supposedly dismantled as a hoax, but we'll see. AIPAC's United Democracy Project, Super PAC, funneled $5 million to support his Senate bid this year, 2024. $5 million. So, as it relates to Adam Schiff's relationship with Burisma through and via BlackRock and Franklin Templeton, here was something that was released in Ukrainian media back in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. It says, last week, November 14th, the Prosecutor General's office, unnoticed by the media, announced a new suspicion to the notorious owner of Burisma, ex-ecology minister Zoe Lofgren. According to the suspicion, the Yanukovych family is suspected in particular with legalizing laundering of criminally obtained income through Franklin Templeton Investments, an investment fund carrying out purchases of external government loan bonds totaling $7.4 billion. Now, for his part, MP Dubinsky from the Servant of the People faction said that according to investigators, the Yanukovych family illegally obtained $7.4 billion and laundered the funds through an investment fund close to some representatives of the U.S. Democratic Party in the form of external government loan bonds. The son of Templeton's founder, this gets real interesting here, the son of Templeton's founder, John Templeton Jr., was one of President Obama's major campaign donors. Another fund-related character is Thomas Donilon, managing director of BlackRock Investment Institute, shareholder Franklin Templeton Investments, which has the largest share in the fund. It is noteworthy that he previously was Obama's national security advisor. Jamie Raskin. This is another swamp creature that we all know is steeped in corruption, a man who, like Liz Cheney, is morally bankrupt, will lie and cheat and steal, and also has a very interesting relationship, rather his wife has a very interesting role, has served interesting roles in the past. Let's put it that way. We'll get into it. So Jamie Raskin recently stated that he had a plan, or that they had a plan in place that would deny Trump the presidency through the 14th Amendment. Using the 14th Amendment, they could state that, as in the 14th Amendment, no one can hold public office or run for it if they committed or orchestrated an insurrection.
So, they want to kick it to Congress, so it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025 to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified.
He compared modern-day America to ancient civilizations that practiced human sacrifice, as innocent children are sacrificed every day to the nation's bogus reading of the Second Amendment. I say that again. The nation's bogus reading of the Second Amendment. That's not a crime, of course, but this is who this guy is. He doesn't respect the Constitution. He wants to utilize the 14th Amendment, and he also says that Americans have a bogus reading on the Second Amendment. These aren't indictments on him that could lead him to be criminally prosecuted. However, this next one is significantly more interesting. His wife, Sarah Bloom Raskin, serves as a member of the board of directors at Vanguard. And she was a former governor of the Federal Reserve Board from 2010 to 2014. Now, let's expand upon that. Jamie Raskin received an ethics complaint, and there were several ethics complaints lodged against him because of the massive trades that his wife was conducting. She'd sell off a massive amount of stock, like I said, in a similar vein to Nancy Pelosi, making tremendous amounts of money without reporting it. Now, mind you, she was also a deputy secretary of the Treasury. I might double check that, but if my memory serves. Board of Directors at Vanguard, Governor of the Federal Reserve Board. How do these people, like, again, the same thing with Zoe Lofgren, except these are two people in government that, well, Sarah Bloom was formerly in government, but these are two people in government that are highly influential. Jamie Raskin has gone vociferously after Trump for a decade, and his wife was on the Federal Reserve Board just before Trump ran, and now on the board of directors at Vanguard. How is that? It might not be insider trading, but look at the wars that we have going on. These people are profiting off of death and annihilation, and also trying to subvert the will of the people by completely annihilating Donald Trump. All right, next. We've got Pete Aguilar. These next few, we'll look into Liz Cheney via her actions on January 6th, or in the Select Committee, but they're less significant and don't have a track record of decades of corruption, so to speak. So Pete Aguilar, he's a member of the House Democratic leadership, serving as vice chair of the House Democratic Caucus prior to his election to Congress in 2014. He served as the mayor of Redlands, California. Aguilar told the media on July 1st that the focus of the investigation is to uncover the truth. 140 Capitol Police officers were injured, some of them permanently, on January 6th. Come on. I mean, give me a break. They also said that multiple police officers were killed. In fact, one died of natural causes the next day from a heart attack related to the events of January 6th. This was the official reporting. I'll put the picture here. Then there were 5 others that lost their lives from suicide. But they claim that they died because of January 6th. Pete Aguilar has received some rather hefty campaign contributions from AIPAC, totaling around, if I'm not mistaken, $850,000. Stephanie Murphy's next. Murphy is considered a rising star in the Democratic Party and in Florida politics. There was speculation she might want to unseat Marco Rubio, but during a news conference last year, she reflected on her family's personal experience with political violence in communist Vietnam, as if this resembles anything like that. I fled a country where political violence was how political transitions were made, Murphy said, and so it broke my heart to be in this building on January 6th and see the kind of political violence that occurred in the country I fled and in countries that I worked on when I was at the Department of Defense. Last, we get to Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. These two need no introduction. I'm going to skip through. So Adam Kinzinger, elected in 2010, this is a former Republican that has Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger selected to be on this. Well, they wouldn't be selected to be on this by Nancy Pelosi if they didn't have a specific, if Nancy Pelosi didn't think that these guys are going to go after Trump, and I know it, they wouldn't be selected. Simple as that. Kinzinger's an outspoken critic of Trump. He also endorsed Kamala Harris, voted for Joe Biden, if I'm not mistaken, along with Cheney and 8 other Republicans to impeach the former president following the January 6th attack on the Capitol. He said that although he didn't expect to be called to be part of the committee, when duty calls, I will always answer. To Liz Cheney, that's where we get into the timeline. We get to Liz Cheney, swamp creature extraordinaire. I've left her for last, mainly because she is the most disgusting and vile creature on this select committee. Select because Nancy Pelosi selected them because she knew that they would most aggressively attack Donald Trump. We have a timeline here from the findings report given by Loudermilk from the subcommittee. Timeline goes, former Representative Liz Cheney colluded with star witness Cassidy Hutchinson without Hutchinson's attorney's knowledge. Interesting. Former Representative Liz Cheney should be investigated for potential criminal witness tampering based on new information about her communication. Cassidy Hutchinson's most outrageous claims lacked any evidence, and the Select Committee had knowledge that her claims were false when they publicly promoted her. President Trump did not attack his Secret Service detail at any time on January 6th. President Trump did not have intelligence indicating violence on the morning of January 6th. Cassidy Hutchinson falsely claimed to have drafted a handwritten note for President Trump on January 6th, and Representative Cheney and Cassidy Hutchinson baselessly attempted to disbar Hutchinson's former attorney. Why would they do that? Former Representative Liz Cheney used the January 6th Select Committee as a tool to attack President Trump at the cost of investigative integrity and Capitol security. 5. The January 6th Select Committee was improperly constituted and lacked authority. 6. The January 6th Select Committee neglected or withheld evidence from its final report and deleted voluminous records it should have preserved. 7. The Department of Defense scapegoated the Washington, D.C. National Guard to distract blame from senior leadership. And this is exactly how they did that. Acting Secretary of Defense Christopher Miller dismissed President Trump's order prior to January 6th to use any and all military assets to keep the demonstration safe. Secretary of the Army Ryan McCarthy intentionally delayed the D.C. National Guard's response to the Capitol on January 6th despite authorization. The Department of Defense Inspector General published a flawed report containing fabrications and ignored relevant information. Next, the Department of Defense and the Department of Defense Inspector General knowingly and inaccurately placed blame on the D.C. National Guard leadership for the delayed response on January 6th. The Department of Defense Inspector General was not responsive to the subcommittee's requests and even obstructed the subcommittee's investigation. This sounds like the Inspector General is rather shady. The subcommittee detected an inappropriately close relationship between the Department of Defense and its watchdog Inspector General. Number 8, the FBI and Capitol Police both failed to investigate the individuals responsible for building fake gallows on Capitol grounds on January 6th. Number 9, the subcommittee published more than 44,000 hours of CCTV footage from the Capitol. The subcommittee conducted an extensive review of the investigation into the 2 pipe bombs on January 5th and 6th. Wait for it. That report is set to be released within the next few days. Huge news, guys. January 6th, the biggest scandal potentially in American history. Russiagate was the most corrupt scandal that really we can think of, outside of course, JFK, 9/11 maybe. This is all a sham, and we've all known it. I apologize. The video had to be long because we've got a lot to cover, and in the next couple of days, we're going to have some serious revelations as it relates to the pipe bomb, which no one talks about. These things are coming out, and by the time Trump gets into office, I might be one of those if I were Liz Cheney, I might be one of the celebrities that say, if Donald Trump wins, I'm leaving the country, because she's in trouble. She's in trouble, and so is Benny Thompson. These people are corrupt, they're vile, they're liars, and they have done everything they can to subvert democracy as they so ardently cheer on. So I look forward to, in the next couple of days, continuing to review these releases. This subcommittee is on a warpath for these criminals, and come time Donald Trump is in office and we have Kash Patel and we have Tulsi Gabbard, I don't think it's going to be a very good day for them, because we're going to see the FBI's involvement, and we're going to see the FBI and CIA's involvement and the DOJ's involvement in the pipe bombs and covering that up. And we're going to see this select committee's corruption uncovered on public television, and I can't wait for it. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you watched to the end, I appreciate it. Tell me what you thought. I'll post the sources in the replies, or if you're watching on YouTube, I'll post the sources in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll be back soon.